Welcome back to A Slice of News, where I cut you off a slice of news. Senator Mitch McConnell has been hospitalized for nearly a month now, and his Republican colleagues swear that they've been having conversations with him and that he's improving, but the rest of us remain unconvinced. When it comes to Mitch McConnell right now, there's more that we don't know than we do. What is known is that he's been hospitalized since June 14th, but spokespeople for the senator won't even acknowledge what he was hospitalized for, though emergency dispatch calls going to an address that was Mitch McConnell's home, indicating that someone there was unconscious and unresponsive, and later that it was someone in cardiac arrest, would seem to say that that's exactly why he's been hospitalized. And that's pretty much where the facts end. His people won't even confirm or deny that that's the reality of his condition that led him to be in the hospital in the first place has understandably led to a lot of conjecture and suspicion. Some suspecting that his condition may be worse than that and he may not even be alive at all anymore, or at the very least no longer in a condition where he can exercise his senatorial duties with no chance of recovery. In response to this, both Senator Majority Leader John Thune and Senate Majority Whip John Barrasso both claim to have recently had 20-minute long conversations with the 84-year-old senator, claiming he's improving and is looking forward to his return to the Senate. But many, myself included, are simply not buying it. Many on the right are saying Senator McConnell has a right to his privacy, and the public doesn't have to know all the details of his health and current medical condition. But when the only seeming signs of life are the claimants by two of his Republican colleagues with a vested interest in maintaining the narrative of his continued functionality, it seems perfectly reasonable to wonder if possibly Mitch McConnell is no longer alive and that we are basically seeing a senatorial version of Weekend at Bernie's, where they're puppeteering a corpse and trying to convince us all, oh, he's totally fine. I think the fact that all they can produce is some claims that they definitely talked to him on the phone speaks volume. Yes, it's true the public isn't due every piece of information about every elected official's health issues. But if it's true whatever medical condition put him in the hospital is improving and he's reportedly healthy and functional enough to have multiple 20-minute long conversations with several of his Republican colleagues, surely at the very least a photograph proving that he's at least still alive isn't too much to ask. If Republicans want to stop the speculation and allay people's fears that Mitch McConnell's condition is far worse than has been reported, they could do it. Instead, all they give is some claims of a phone call that basically boils down to trust us, he's getting better, he's going to come back. You don't have to know anything else other than that, just believe us. And if there's one thing we know, it's the word of a Republican senator means so much. This really is one of those situations where silence speaks much louder than words ever could. The fact that Mitch McConnell is completely missing in action for nearly a month after what is undoubtedly a serious medical event is really not helping people's need to have answers and resulting in wild speculations to the point that many are convinced Mitch McConnell has been dead this entire time and Republicans are trying to cover it up. And you might be asking, why would they do that? The answer might actually be pretty simple. If he were found to be unable to do his duties in his position, such as if he's in a medical state which makes it impossible to do his job, or as some surmise, he may be entirely dead, and then definitely unable to perform his senatorial duties, the law in Kentucky says that Governor of Kentucky, Andy Beshear, would be allowed to call a special election to fill his seat. And Republicans absolutely want to avoid that because if a special election is called, there may be a chance that someone like former Representative Thomas Massie is able to take his place, at least for the next months leading up to the November midterm elections. Now, how likely Massie in particular would be to take over where Mitch McConnell left off is admittedly not a sure thing. Massie himself has not even publicly stated that he would be running in a special election were it to be called. But while he did lose his House seat in the recent primary to the Trump-backed Ed Galbraith, he was clear and that defeat that he did not consider his political career over and that he was planning on running for a future office, possibly Kentucky governor in 2027. But if the opportunity was presented to him to take Mitch McConnell's seat, even if it was only for 5 months, may be something he'll be interested in. Not announcing that you're running for it and not running for it are two different things. With Republicans' majority in the Senate possibly at risk following the November midterm, a man who was often at odds with the president and was willing to vote against his will is probably the last person they want taking over Mitch McConnell's position. So for them, the idea of keeping McConnell's seat empty as long as possible is the more appealing option. If all the secrecy surrounding Mitch McConnell's health truly is a bid to prevent a special election from being called, is still unknown and remains pure conjecture. But what is known is this level of seemingly complete radio silence, both from him and about him, really seems to go beyond simply protecting his privacy and into clearly seeming to hide something. I think it's important to note that the survival rate for someone of his age having a cardiac arrest event is fairly low. And even if he did survive, serious complications would certainly be possible. So theories that he may actually have already passed away, or at the very least is permanently incapacitated, are not without merit. Can I or anyone else say definitively he's dead or in a physical or mental state that makes it impossible for him to ever return to his senatorial duties? Not really, not without any real solid evidence. But considering how little effort and how easy it would be to disprove these claims and conjectures, and the fact that they don't just do that really lends credence to them, even without that evidence. Going this long without signs of life, both literally and figuratively, from Mitch McConnell seems very suspicious. And a couple unsubstantiated claims from his Republican colleagues saying that they definitely spoke to him for up to 20 minutes really does nothing to change that. It really seems unlikely that a man in his condition would be healthy and functional enough to speak to multiple men for 20 minutes each. While I certainly can't say it's impossible, it seems improbable, leaving these claims of phone calls with Mitch McConnell feeling very much as a cover to deflect from the reality of his condition and how serious it is, and the fact that there's a solid chance that he will never come back to the Senate, except maybe as a ghost, and wants to make sure that there's no chance anyone else takes his seat before November. I understand why they're lying and covering up, but that doesn't change the fact that they are lying and covering up. Personally, I think I am in the camp that Mitch McConnell either died back in June or has been left in a state of complete non-functionality since then, and Republicans want to make sure that the public does not find out about this. And shortly after the deadline to call a special election expires, he will suddenly take a downturn in his health and officially pass away, since by then the ruse of him being alive this whole time will have served its purpose, and it will be no longer necessary to keep up the line. It's become abundantly clear that Republicans want to keep hold of their senatorial majority by any means necessary, and pretending a dead senator is definitely still alive, at least until the midterms, is certainly not something that they wouldn't try if they thought they could get away with it. If anything, this whole Mitch McConnell situation really puts in doubt if we should have our government officials continue in their roles up until the age of 84, because these sorts of health events are more likely to someone that elderly. Even if they don't become incapacitated or die while in office, as Mitch McConnell appears to have possibly done, why risk it? Most other professions have a hard retirement age because they know that past a certain point, the mind and body deteriorate to a point where doing the job at peak performance is no longer possible. And it seems when it comes to serving in public office, age really is just a number, because you can keep going, apparently, until you die of some sort of old age-related complication. The American populace deserves better. And really, considering how taxing public office can be, I would think that to those who serve, they would want the opportunity to not have to keep running for re-election into their 80s, because the risk it then poses that they will have some sort of serious medical condition and possibly die in office. They should be able to enjoy those twilight years, not force themselves to keep working. It feels like age limits and term limits are something that would be beneficial for both the voting populace and those that they're voting for, yet it also feels like they will never happen. But bottom line, Mitch McConnell lived a political life of pure obstructionism. He never found a single opportunity to obstruct anything that he wasn't willing to take. So it seemed only appropriate that even possibly in death, he continues that tradition. One last obstruction for the road, I guess. Alright guys, that'll be it for this episode of A Slice of News. I've been your host, Mr. Slice, and until next time when I cut you off another slice of news.